Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something really quite unique. Imagine getting a letter right, but it's super short, maybe just a page, barely even that. We're talking about an ancient text called 2 John, just 13 verses. But believe me, it packs an incredible punch. It distills a whole way of thinking and, well, gives some surprisingly direct instructions.
Yeah, it's not some long, heavy theological work. It feels much more like a personal note. It's from someone just called the Elder, and it's written to the chosen lady and her children.
It almost feels less like an official document and more like, a really vital message passed between close friends, but one with huge eternal weight.
Absolutely. And our mission today is really to unpack that weight, that significance. This tiny letter is actually a fantastic shortcut to understanding some core ancient beliefs. We're going to trace the main threads running through it: truth, love, community. But here's where it gets really fascinating. We'll also look at this surprising strictness you find baked right into the text. It shows these beliefs weren't just ideas, they were direct commands for living.
Okay, let's get into it. The letter starts with this really warm, but also incredibly specific opening. The elder says, "To the chosen lady and her children, whom I love in the truth." And straight away, he emphasizes this truth that lives in us and will be with us forever. That's not just a standard greeting, is it? It really sets the stage.
It completely sets the stage. What's striking is how truth is immediately positioned as the foundation. It's not abstract. And right away, verse 3 connects it to blessing. Grace, mercy, and peace from God the Father and from Jesus Christ the Father's Son will be with us in truth and love.
Mm-hmm.
So truth isn't just nice to have, it's presented as fundamental to their whole spiritual reality, almost like the atmosphere they exist in.
Mm-hmm. And you really feel the elder's genuine happiness when he mentions finding some of her children walking in the truth just as the Father commanded us. It sounds like that joy a teacher feels when their students really get it, and actually live it out. It's a real validation.
Right.
And from that point, he shifts to what seems like the core command of the whole letter. He says, "And now, dear lady, I am not writing you a new command, but one we have had from the beginning. I ask that we love one another."
Uh-huh.
He frames it as this basic, long-standing rule. What do you think is the significance of him stressing that it's not new?
Well, that's crucial, I think. By saying it's not a new command, he's basically reinforcing, look, this isn't some extra rule I just made up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a callback to the absolute basics they've always known. A refocusing, you might say. And it leads to the obvious question, okay, so what does this love actually look like? The letter doesn't leave you guessing. It defines it straight up in verse 6. And this is love, that we walk in obedience to his commands. And it repeats, as you have heard from the beginning, his command is that you walk in love. So it's clearly not just a feeling, it's active. It's walking in obedience. It ties love directly to action, to following these known commands. It's about how you conduct your life, not just, warm feelings.
So love equals living out the truth, essentially, a daily practice. But then, wow, the tone just shifts quite dramatically. We get this really stark warning, the elder says. "Many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the antichrist." I mean, it's incredibly strong language, what was going on. What was so critical that it needed that kind of intensity?
The stakes were perceived as incredibly high. This specific issue, denying Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh, wasn't some minor theological quibble for them. It hit right at the core of how they understood God's relationship with humanity. To deny that was seen as undermining, everything. And yeah, the language used to identify those teaching it is severe, the deceiver and the antichrist. Not necessarily one single person in the future, but anyone embodying that spirit of opposition to these core truths. And notice the immediate follow-up. Watch out that you do not lose what you have worked for, but that you may be rewarded fully. Verse 8. It implies real, tangible loss if they don't guard against these teachings. Almost like you could lose your spiritual inheritance. It draws a very, very clear line in the sand. Verse 9 says, "Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God. Whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son." So sticking to this specific teaching isn't just like a good idea. It's framed as absolutely essential for their connection to God.
Okay, this next instruction is where it gets, maybe really challenging for a modern reader. It's about hospitality, which was huge in that culture, right? But it says, verse 10, "If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take him into your house or welcome him." Wow. I mean, when you first read that, it sounds incredibly harsh, almost exclusionary. How do we process that today with our emphasis on openness?
It is jarring, no doubt. It definitely challenges our modern sensibilities. But the rationale given right after, in verse 11, is key. Anyone who welcomes him
shares in his wicked work.
Mm.
This points to a deep concern for the integrity of the community, protecting their shared beliefs, offering hospitality, which often included a lodging and endorsement in that context, to someone actively undermining their core tenets wasn't seen as neutral. It was seen as, well, complicity. For them, it was about safeguarding the group's identity, making sure their foundational beliefs weren't eroded from the inside. It really pushes us to think, doesn't it? How do our communities, online or off, decide who or what ideas are welcomed? Where, if anywhere, do we draw lines for protection?
That really reframes what hospitality meant then, especially within a tight-knit community built on shared belief. It wasn't just about being nice to strangers. It was also about who you publicly associated with and the signal that sent. It's a stark reminder that defining boundaries is something every community, ancient or modern, has to grapple with, protecting its core. Then, after these really strong warnings and commands, the elder kind of pulls back. He ends on this much more personal note. It's actually quite moving. He says, "I have much to write to you, but I do not want to use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to visit you and talk with you face to face so that our joy may be complete." Why do you think he ends like that? After all the serious stuff, this longing for a face-to-face visit.
It's a lovely human touch, isn't it? It shows that despite the gravity of the situation and the firmness of the instructions, the ultimate desire wasn't just about doctrine. It was about relationship, about the joy and fullness found in actually being together, sharing life within the community. It emphasizes that, even with the most critical messages, there's something irreplaceable about direct personal connection, something words on a page just can't fully capture.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the letter just wraps up very simply, with a family feel. The children of your chosen sister send their greetings.
Yeah. So just to quickly recap our deep dive into 2 John, we've walked through this incredibly short text, but wow, it delivers some powerful stuff. We saw that tight link between truth, love, and actually doing things obedience as the bedrock for this community.
And the critical warning about specific deceivers challenging those core beliefs. That was intense.
Definitely. And maybe the most surprising bit, that unexpected strictness about who you associate with, who you welcome, all aimed at protecting the group's integrity. It's a tiny letter, but it's absolutely loaded.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought, something for you, our listeners, to chew on. In our world today, with so many different viewpoints, so much information flying around, what does walking in the truth actually mean for you? And if protecting your core beliefs or values matters, what kinds of boundaries, if any, do you set? This ancient letter really forces us to think about that tricky, often uncomfortable balance between love and discernment, even now.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep getting well informed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.